In this video, we are going to repair this 40 Xbox One X, which has a 40 front USB port and bind button. So what we are going to do is take a look inside and see what it is. Now, I'm kind of pretty sure I already know what it is, and I will show you once we get the console open. So let's do that now. Now, as you can see at the front here, front right hand side, there's a ribbon cable which comes along to this top connector here, and it's screwed down with 2 screws. Now, as I say, we've seen a few of these, and my guess is the connector underneath this metal plate is broken, because that ribbon cable runs down, it goes to this bottom black plastic case of the Xbox X, and then it connects to the USB port and the bind button. So first things first, we're just going to whip off these 2 screws and see what we find underneath. Now I'm guessing that the actual connector is broken, and I can already tell it is because they shouldn't move like that. So let's take the second screw out, like so, and this shouldn't come away like that. Essentially what you should do, you should still be connected, and you have to pop it off the connector. And as you can see down here, the actual connector is broken off. So the connector is still in this USB cable, and there should be a little black square there, which is the connector socket, which that pops onto, but it's completely broken off. So what we need to do is remove the motherboard. So we'll take everything apart and then repair this connector. Now, it is quite a fiddly job. So if you do ever come across this, and it's quite easy to break. This is probably one of the Xbox's most weakest points of the actual construction of the Xbox. So to the bit we're interested in, we need to flip the motherboard back over. It's actually this connector here, or lack of connector, and that's the one that's been ripped off. So what we need to do is get under the microscope and then check to see how badly damaged that is. Right, so here we are underneath the microscope, and we've got the zoom in on the actual connector itself, or where the connector should be. So just to show you whereabouts we are, this is the edge of the motherboard along here. The connector is the first thing we come across. Now, as you can see, most of the pads look okay. However, this pad here has been lifted. So what we're going to have to do is create a bridge from here and run a jumper cable just underneath where the pad should have been. But first things first, let's just grab the connector, which is still on the ribbon cable. So let's just move that out of the way quickly, and let's just pop this here. So this is the ribbon cable which is connected to the plastic case still. As you can see, this actual square black piece is the piece which should be on the motherboard. So what we can do is just lift off the sides here, either side, and just wiggle that off, and off that will pop. Quickly do that now. So just pop that off the ribbon cable, and as you can see, unfortunately, this connector is actually missing some of its pins. So where the attempt has been made to get this back on, there's actually a couple of pins that have come off as well. Now, not to worry, we've got one identical, which is a brand new one, and spare. So what we'll do, we'll pop the brand new one on. As you can see, the difference between those two is one of them has got all the pins on and the other hasn't. Now let's take a look at the pads on the motherboard. Now they all look okay, apart from obviously the one to the top left. And unfortunately, that one to the top left is the actual pad that carries the bind button. So what I'm going to do, just add a little bit of flux, which is going to go along and just clean these all up a little bit. For this top pad here, just here, we need to run a link. So I'm going to get a Stanley blade, very careful doing this. We're just going to take off some of the green PCB mask to expose a little bit more copper for us. Right, so now you can see the copper exposed. So what we want to do is just add a blob of flux there. So where we've got the copper, we're just going to quickly give it a tin of solder, like so. Come in with our jumper wire and connect it up. Now, obviously, as the USB connector is going to be going on top of this, it needs to be as flat to the motherboard as possible. And then we obviously want it clear from any of the other pads. Now, what I like to do as well is we cut our jumper wire, cut it a little bit longer than the pad required, because what you can do is once the connector's back on again, we can actually fold it over to the top, which does make life a little bit easier trying to connect that jumper wire to something which is underneath. Right, so now we are pretty much set to get our replacement connector and pop it into place. Right, so that looks good. So first of all, we need to get some flux. So we will add a load of flux along all the pads. And then we're just going to pop our connector down in place for now. And what you want to do is make sure the connector is evenly placed in between the pads. Right, so you've got the same amount of pads showing this side, the same amount of pads showing that side. So that looks good, like so. Push it down a little bit. Then obviously we need to line up the legs to the pads. Now, when it comes to soldering, it's nigh on impossible to do it from the top here. So what we like to do is just spin the motherboard around, going from one angle at a time. So we spin it all the way around, and there you can see our connector. So I've got the motherboard raised up a little bit. The pins and the pads are relatively aligned, so what we can do, very gently rest our pliers on top of the connector without trying to move it too much. And then we can come in with our soldering iron and just start gently tacking the pads. So let's just tidy the whole area up with some isopropanol. Hopefully not forgetting to actually clean the inside of the connector where the flux went earlier as well. If you get some solder blobs like this on the actual copper plate, don't worry so much. Let's just ground anyhow. Perfect. So all that's left to do now is get it all connected and tested. So there you go, one Xbox X fixed. So bind button is now working and USB port is now working. So just a quick video really to show you how to replace the connector on the motherboard. As I say, it's quite tricky to do, and as you saw, it's quite tricky to do, but it is possible. As I say, it's a weak spot on the design of the Xbox X, so it is quite a common problem, especially when you're trying to take the console apart yourselves. Just a tip: if you do take your console apart, just make sure that you carefully take off that silver plate that's on the motherboard after you remove the two screws. Anyhow, so if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments below. We are always here to help. Any advice you'd want on your Xboxes, again, pop them in the comments below and we will answer them for you. So all that leaves me to do is to say thanks very much for watching the video. Really appreciate you viewing. Please give us a thumbs up, or yes, if you like the video, subscribe. We're posting more and more videos each day. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.